Welcome back to Series 3 of Nail Theory, then Anatomy and Physiology by Trieu, London. So over this series, we've gone over structure of the nail, bone and muscular system, skin types and skin structure, and we'll finally conclude on the lymphatic system. Okay, so the lymphatic system is a one-way drainage system for tissues, as it helps provide a circulatory pathway for tissue fluid to be transported as lymph from the tissue spaces of the body into venous systems where they become part of the blood circulation. It's quite a big definition, but so the lymphatic system is basically a one-way drainage system for tissues. They are then transported as lymphs from tissue spaces of the body into the blood circulation. The primary function is defensive, i.e. to remove bacteria and foreign materials, thereby preventing infection. So it also drains away excess fluids and for elimination from the body. So now, what is a lymph? So it's a transparent, colorless, watery fluid which is derived from the tissue fluid contained in the lymph vessels. It resembles blood plasma, except that it's low in concentration of plasma proteins. This is because some of the large protein molecules are unable to filter through cells, forming capillary walls, so they remain in blood plasma. Lymph contains only one type of cell. They are called lymphocytes. Okay, so now how is lymph formed? As blood is distributed to tissue, some of the plasma escapes through the capillaries and it flows around the tissue cells, delivering nutrients such as oxygen and water to the cell. So when blood is distributed, some plasma escapes capillaries. Once the plasma is outside the capillary and is bathing, the tissue cells become tissue fluid. Some of the tissue fluid passes back into the capillary walls to return to the blood via the veins. And then some is collected by the lymph vessel where it becomes a lymph. The lymph is then taken through the circulatory pathway and is ultimately returned to the bloodstream. Connection between blood and lymph. So the lymphatic system is therefore often referred to as the secondary circulatory system, as it consists of a network of vessels that assist the blood in returning fluid from the tissues back to the heart. The structure of the lymphatic system are as follows. We have the lymph capillaries, the vessels, nodes, and collecting ducts. So you can see a diagram of that. Right, so this is the lymph system. So you have it's almost like the secondary circulatory system in terms of the blood. So you got the arterial, capillaries, and venules. So as the drainage system, it works like this. So the plasma escapes from the cell, nutrients pass into the cell, excess fluid is drained into the lymphatic vessel and the lymph node. So that's drained from the cell, and then also from the cell is waste products passed out back into the capillaries. Lymph capillaries. So they commence in the tissue spaces of the body as a minute blind-end tubes. As lymph is a one-way circulatory path, the walls of the lymph capillaries are like those of the blood capillaries in that they are single cell layer thick to help it possible for tissue fluid to enter them. However, they are permeable, meaning things can go through them, to substances of larger molecule size than those of blood capillaries. The lymph capillaries mirror the blood capillaries and form a network in the tissue, draining away excess fluid and waste products from the tissue spaces of the body. Once the tissue fluid enters the lymph capillary, it becomes lymph and is gathered into larger lymph vessels. So the larger lymph vessels. Lymph vessels are similar to veins in that they have thin collapsible walls, and their role is to transport the lymph through the circulatory pathway. They have a considerable number of valves which keep the lymph flowing in the right direction and to prevent backflow, because remember, it's a one-way system. Superficial lymph vessels tend to follow the course of their veins by draining the skin, whereas the deeper lymph vessels tend to follow the course of the arteries and drain the internal structures of the body. The lymph vessels carry the lymph towards the heart under steady pressure. About 2 to 4 liters of lymph pass through the venous system every day. Once lymph has passed through the lymph vessels, it drains into at least one lymphatic node before returning to the blood circulatory system. As the lymphatic system lacks a pump, the lymphatic vessels have to make use of the contracting muscles that assist the movement of the lymph. Therefore, the lymphatic flow is the greatest during exercise due to the increased contraction of muscle. So that's quite heavy in terms of what the lymphs are. We then are going to soon finish off with the lymph nodes. So it's an oval or bean-shaped structure covered by capsule-connected tissue. It's made up of the lymphatic tissues and is divided into two regions, the outer cortex and the inner medulla. There are more than 100 lymph nodes placed strategically alongside the lymph vessels. They vary in size between 1 millimeter and 25 millimeters in length and are massed in groups. Some are superficial and lie just on the skin. There are others deeply seated and found nearer to the arteries and veins. Each lymph node receives lymph from several different lymph vessels and blood from smaller arterioles. So that's it on lymphatic system. There's a lot to take in, but as you're reading these notes and I'm going through them, make sure you always refer back to this diagram. You also might have your own course notes, which you might want to refer to. So I hope you enjoyed the whole series. It's slightly more technical and it might take some time to get your head around. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, subscribe and like. And that's it for today's series on nail theory. In future, there may be a few more videos coming up and I will keep you updated.